Now that you have a sourdough starter put together, my previous video, then you probably have some other questions. Okay, I think my starter's ready to make dough. Is there a way to measure that your sourdough starter is mature and ready for baking? I have so many other questions and I'm not entirely sure. I'm so glad you're here because I want to answer those questions for you. My name is Laura. Welcome to Morning Dove Haven. I'm just going to share with you my approach around my sourdough starter and how I maintain it. I do take a very simple approach to maintaining my sourdough starter. Was something that I had to be measuring every time and feed every day, and lots of technicality to it. I would not be doing it. I was very intimidated, maybe you have been too. I had no idea what a sourdough starter was. I dove in because I'm all about getting back to basics and eating as healthy as possible, being as self-reliant, self-sufficient. I was able to do it, and all I could say is if I can do it, you could do it. Taking that casual approach is much more helpful and feel comfortable. As far as your starter and maintaining it and keeping it healthy, refresh it maybe 2-3 times a week. My starter stayed in the refrigerator a whole month while I was away. I came back to find the hooch on it, which is in this video I'll put up here, all about what is hooch. And then if you have hooch, what to do with it. And that's the second video. So I came home to find hooch, but I refreshed my starter a couple of times. It got all healthy again, ready to bake. So what you want to do in the beginning is go ahead and feed your starter by doing the discard method 2 to 3 times a week for the first couple of weeks maybe. Think about even as if it's a plant. You know, you have a brand new seedling, give it fertilizer, and then it starts to grow, and then perhaps you want to back off on the fertilizer and just give it a little more sun. And then once you see it's getting on its feet, you just kind of gauge when you should water it. It's the same thing with your starter. Because I've been able to bake plenty of bread and they do great. They rise and they're delicious and healthy and yummy. Knowing when it's ready to use, when can I make bread? Well, this is where what's called the float test comes in. The float test is where you have a bowl of water, take a spoonful of the starter, and just drop it into the water. And if that starter floats on top, then your starter is ready. Start mixing up your dough and go through the process of making your first loaf of bread. If the starter sinks, it does not float, then it is not ready. So just go back and continue to refresh your starter every few days. Give it a chance to build up more yeast. And then maybe in a week, go ahead and give the float test again. You've done the float test, how often to feed your starter. In between feedings, you are keeping it in the refrigerator now. The next piece I want to share with you is actually showing you how I feed my starter. I have 2 starters that I'm going to feed for you. I'm going to show you 2 methods to use to notate where the starter is right after you fed it, and then you're going to watch after 3, 4, 5 hours. You're going to be watching the sourdough starter grow, and it peaks somewhere around that 4-hour time frame. But you want it to at least double. So if you see that your starter has doubled, then that is what is called an active starter. An active starter is where it is fully active and ready to use inside your bread dough. You can use any type of flour to feed your starter to do the refreshing. All-purpose, bread flour, whole wheat, einkorn. Let's go ahead and go do that now. Okay, so I'm going to take my starters out of the refrigerator. Here's Stella and Stella Jr. So I've got my 2 starters out, and I have my filtered water right here, and it is about 84 degrees. I just checked there, and I've got my flour. So let's go and mix this baby up and get it refreshed. And take a look at what Stella looks like there before we get started. This is what she looks like right now. She's young, she's not as active, it's not as bubbly looking, but she's gonna get there. When I'm refreshing my starter sometimes, I'll go ahead and pour my starter into a new jar. I like giving it the fresh yeast that is now in my home. It's a way of keeping your starter healthy. The all-purpose flour. When you're refreshing your starter, you don't necessarily have to discard anymore like you were doing when you were first creating your sourdough starter. If you end up having all this starter in your jar and you're like, whoa, what do I do with it? I don't want to throw it out. I highly recommend you go online and check out all the discard recipes that there are. The spoon was in the healthy starter, the mature starter that I've been using for all kinds of bread. I would not want to feed the immature starter first and then go add it to my mature. And I don't want to put something that's still in development, perhaps taint my healthy starter. So I put the water in there, it's been sitting. Let's just stir that up. Add flour. That's better. I think this is going to be fine. Clean down the sides of the jar. Okay, get it all in there. What we're doing is we're able to get a clear view through the jar of where the starter is at, where it's starting. All right, so there's two different methods of marking it so that you can know if your starter has doubled within 3, 4, 5 hours, one of which is using the wipe erase marker. It is right here, so I'm gonna mark it here. That is where Stella Jr. is starting out. Now, Stella, what I'm going to do here different with her, another method that a lot of people use is a rubber band. So I'm just going to place the rubber band around the jar. And I'm going to go ahead and put these in the oven now with the light on for about 20 minutes, and I'll take them out and we'll take a look at them after 3, 4 hours. So now you see how to get your starter to a place of being active and ready for baking. If you've been baking bread for a while now and you use different flours, please comment below. I would really appreciate getting feedback about if you have any differences in how your starter reacts, or if it takes longer to get to peak with a different flour when you add it to an all-purpose flour starter. And by the way, if you haven't subscribed and you're enjoying what you're seeing here on my channel, I would love for you to join our community and be a part of my channel. If you could hit the subscribe button, that would be totally awesome. If you have any questions at all, please put them in the comments below. Share with me your wins. Let me know how your first bread came out. What did you make with your discard? It's so exciting for me to hear these things. It's just as exciting for me for when I share new information with you. We'll see you next time.